Art cinema, fart cinema.
Art cinema, fart cinema.
Art cinema, fart cinema. Fart cinema.
The following podcast contains spoilers for Superman the movie, Superman 2 and 3, Masters of the Universe, Rain Man, Deliverance, With Neil and I, Cat People, Sirens, Donnie Darko, Showdown in Little Tokyo, Shark Attack 3, Terminator, Hannibal, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Gremlins, Willow, The Wizard of Oz. 1978. Bang! The future of rock and roll. That's how. That's a line from Rain Man. 1978. Bang! The future of rock and roll. He's listening to the radio. This is Rain Man, played by Dustin Hoffman, and Tom Cruise is in the car getting absolutely like his head's just bursting because this guy's quoting the radio. But it's relevant because 1978 was when Superman arrived on cinema screens, played by Christopher Reeve.
Forget all that though.
Yeah.
Or forget the names. What's your name?
Well, my name's Simon.
I'm Nadeem, and this is Art Cinema, Fart Cinema. And this is episode 2.
It is. It's the second one.
And the category for today is
Generic heroics.
Generic Heroics. And as Simon previously mentioned, we are going to be talking about the Superman movies. Or more specifically,
Yeah, we'll focus on
Superman
the third
3.
one because the third one is crap without being as crap as the fourth one. It's an interesting area of it's crap, but it's not one of the worst films ever made, which the fourth one, by the way, along with this fourth Jaws film, it's kind of this thing of they're two of the
they're
worst,
really that bad.
they're two of the worst films ever made.
Oh boy.
So we're kind of landing right before it got that bad with Superman 3 as a focus. But we do, there's I like the Superman Christopher Reeve movies, right? You have recently watched...
I watched all 3 in about 2 days. Or 3 in 2 days, and then we also, we need to cover this, we're also doing Masters of the Universe.
Yes.
The He-Man movie from 1987.
Dolph Lundgren in one of his best roles, and that's saying something because he's got a lot of corkers. He's got conkers and corkers. Anyway.
Oh god. Right, so what were we saying about Superman? I interrupted.
Superman then, that's the third film is a weird one. It's basically so I don't know how much of the story you know about the troubles, the trials and tribulations of Superman behind the scenes, but Richard Donner was meant to make Superman 1 and 2 back to back, like in one shoot and edit.
Is Richard Donner the director of the first?
He's credited as directing the first film, and he actually had shot a lot of the second movie by the time the first one went into editing, but he was falling out with the Salkinds, is that their name? Alexander and
he's
Ilya
the producers.
Salkind. Yeah, the producers didn't like Richard Donner at a certain point. They decided they didn't like him, so they spanked him out of there.
Interesting. So that's why the first 2 movies are quite similar, and this third one by Richard Lester?
Richard Lester, who... I'm sure Richard Lester doesn't have any bad blood with Donner, and I don't think it's vice versa.
I think they're both dead, mate.
Well, are they?
Maybe not. Is Richard Lester not?
Maybe Richard Donner is, but Richard Lester...
I think Lester's dead, mate.
In their continued existences after these films, I don't think it was a thing where one felt they were screwed
They were
over.
just filling in.
They were doing what the bigger hands were telling them to do and whatnot. And Richard Donner wanted out of there, and Richard Lester happily came in. And Richard Lester, the reason, the Salkinds, they had like a comedic sort of way that they wanted these films to go, and Richard Donner was like, no, I'm not having any of that. There's actually like in Christopher Reeve's memoir, which I haven't read, but I did read the Wikipedia page. So there you go. That's why I know this. In the script for the first film, there was even a scene where Lex Luthor, who is bald, gets away in a car without a roof, so you can kind of see his bald head from the sky. and Superman's chasing this bald head, and he's trying to keep track of where the car is, and it's weaving around and stuff. And when he finally swoops down and grabs this bald guy, it's Telly Savalas, like playing himself, like the actor from the Dirty Dozen and that. And there's this whole thing of then Telly Savalas says, "What are you doing, Superman? I'm on my way to a meeting," or whatever, with a cigar hanging out his mouth. And this is a scene Richard Donner was like, "Well, I'm not doing that." Throws it away. That's the sort of scene that Richard Lester would probably have directed.
Well, Richard Lester, right? So
he probably would have directed it.
So the first two Superman movies are very sentimental, they're kind of boring, to be honest.
You don't like them?
They're alright.
Oh man,
they're just so. I think it's the fact that their DNA can be seen in pretty much every single movie that is released now. And it's like, I'm so bored of this.
There's this thing of I'll be doing this thing now where my nostalgic weight will be weighing in, and the nostalgic weight will be coming in and kind of convincing me that these films don't deserve any criticism whatsoever.
Oh no, they do. God. Yeah. They're not that good. Like they're cute. They're cute movies, and I understand why people like the vibe to them. The special effects, all practical or mostly practical, are really really nice. But I don't know, there's just something about these Superman movies that are just, I don't know, unforgivably boring to me. And it might just be I like them, but it might just be the age. I
think it goes like the first movie, you jump from space to, another planet anyway, call it that. You go from another planet where it's all very stark and cold and stylized.
Nice miniatures there, actually.
To like this warm kind of really quite beautifully filmed Smallville rural life in America.
And then you see little Superman with his weird hair.
No, don't talk about
that. This is what annoys me, right? Well, that's not what annoys me, but I thought it was hilarious that like not only do they show little Superman arriving on Earth with his wee willy out. Like for a good portion of the film, it's like it's not. It's like 5 seconds, but then in the retelling at the start of Superman 2, they show the exact same 5 seconds of footage for when Superman arrived on Earth. I'm like, could you not have like shown him lifting up the car or something? Why does it have to be him with his willy out? Little 5-year-old Superman with his willy out. No. That's weird. Yeah. You wouldn't get that in a Marvel movie these days.
No,
or
God,
a DC movie these days.
But that's because everyone's a paedophile and they don't want to, they don't want to encourage that sort of thing.
Of course not.
They want to discourage it.
Oh my God.
They want to discourage paedophilia in movies now.
Very strange indeed.
Oh God. Anyway, right, so
where were we?
Superman 1, directed by Richard Donner, feels very much broken up into bits that are all, I would argue that they're equal, that there's a lot of strength in each of them. It's a strong thing to get this vision of an outer space thing.
They're well made.
In 1978, people would just have memories of things like Logan's Run and really campy films like Barbarella and stuff. Obviously Star Wars is in the recent, memory banks at that point. But this is like more, oh yes, we're getting to take sci-fi seriously. And when you get into the full flesh of Superman's story with Christopher Reeve playing him and stuff, I like the whole Clark Kent as a kind of goofball that makes a of himself all the time.
See, I think what annoyed me about it is that Superman as a character is so invulnerable and unbelievably good at everything, and it's like, I'm bored of this guy. And then, wait, hold on. And then Clark Kent, his alter ego, is a complete and utter goofball loser, can't do anything right. But like clearly he's putting that on, so all the problems that he creates for himself as Clark Kent are all self-imposed, and they never really explore that. It's more just like he absolutely ruins his chances with Lois Lane simply because he needs to, and it's like they never get to the heart of why he needs to, I don't think. And I don't know if they even do that with the new films either, and the new films are much worse than this Superman movie.
In Superman 2, he actually comes clean about who he is and turns human to get involved with Lois Lane, and then realises it's a bad idea.
It's like for 20 minutes though, it's like not even that.
But that's how long it would take to realise, that's a really dumb idea. The TV, he's sitting there like he's just had the shit kicked out of him in a diner, he's got blood on his face, and the TV goes on and it's General Zod like, where is Superman? It's like,
better go change this.
I've made a mistake. And he's got to hitchhike out to some
that's enough. How did he get out there? How did he get to the North Pole?
I love the fact they show him like hitchhiking, like putting his arm up to like a truck. It's like, you can get me a bit closer than then I want to be walking right now on my human legs to like crawl out to some Arctic wasteland. But he gets there. I had a great. When as a kid, I had like a dream about that. It was a recurring thing that came into my dreams was that really haunting bit where he's back to his crystal place and he's yelling for his dad and his voice is echoing. He's like, "Father, father, father!"
I only vaguely remember that.
And he's all like, and this is before he turns back and he comes back as Superman later in the film. But I had this dream. Where he yells "Father!" and his dad, Marlon Brando, actually comes in and starts tying his, your shoes are untied, and he reaches down and ties his shoelaces. And I woke up as a kid, like chuckling at this mental dream where Superman's like, he's walked all the way back to his father, and like Marlon Brando comes in and goes, "Oh,
what kid?
Your shoes are not even fastened up properly." He gets down there and starts tying his shoes.
Come on, Clark.
And he's doing. He goes back to the Clark Kent thing of like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Dad." This was in a dream. I woke up. I was like, it was that thing where you're like, you wake up laughing at your own mental dream. This happens to me quite a lot.
To the mind of Simon.
So Richard Lester takes over a franchise that started semi-seriously with Richard Donner,
or at least on very sure footing. I think. Like they clearly had an arc of stories that they were working on, and everything fed into each other, and it actually caps itself off really, really nicely at the end of the second one.
Yeah.
When Lois Lane forgets him, or he makes Lois Lane forget him.
He gives her that mind-reducing kiss where she'll forget like a lot of what's been going on.
How useful.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, that's another thing.
So he backtracks on two things. First, he doesn't want to be human. He needs to be Superman to protect the planet from all sorts of things that are unforeseen out there. And also, he needs to be devoid of any emotional ties to the humans around him. Like it's in Spider-Man as well. If a superhero's got a love interest, that love interest will be under threat the second the villain.
Time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, see. So he saves, in the first Superman Blue Moon movie, he saves Lois Lane from either death or near death by going back in time. And it's like, why don't you just use that all the time, Superman, you idiot? Like,
it was forbidden. He was.
But he breaks that rule once for Lois Lane's sweet.
If you're going to do it once, do it for the right reason, but then like promise never to do it again.
But he,
you can't do that sort of thing willy-nilly. You can't just, I'll turn back time and like...
It's like just to say...
I'll order a cappuccino instead of a latte because this latte sucks.
Right. He goes back in time, right? He goes back in time to save Lois Lane's life, but like... And then, for some reason, he doesn't like go back and save all the dams from falling down and stuff in the first one. He just... It's just a given that he saved them all.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I don't know. Because like, they show all the dams uncollapsing.
Yeah.
And then they never show them recollapsing and him saving it. And what's more is he also saves people from an earthquake. And I'm like, he flies into the crack that the earthquake has caused and just holds the ground up and it solves everything.
I'm going to I take it as cinematic shorthand that he redid the whole project from top to bottom, including saving the woman's life. So that's another thing. In last week's episode, I used the word cinematic metaphor or visual metaphor about badly shaven guys and divorces and stuff. What I really should have said is cinematic shorthand. It's not a metaphor. It's this cinematic shorthand jumps in to kind of give you a big picture in as little time as possible. We don't have to go through the whole thing again. He did the whole thing, but this time he made sure that the woman was alive.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was trash.
Well, the thing is, Superman 1 is an awkwardly structured film because there's a lot of time spent setting up the alien, like before, even Smallville as well, and in the alien sort of Marlon Brando, putting General Zod in that sort of weird square thing,
the Phantom Zone,
the Phantom Zone, and they twirl off into the distance. It looks like a happy place,
and they're like, ah!
I just enjoy it.
They're all banging on the glass for eternity.
Compared to the existential angst I suffer every day, that looks like a the Phantom Zone looks like a holiday.
It's the fact that in the second one she's like, the only thing that can break the Phantom Zone is a nuclear blast in space, and it's like, well, you're in luck, kid. There's a nuclear blast in space right now.
Oh man, have you seen With Nail and I?
Nope.
Well, Richard Griffith, who is a really funny character in With Nail and I, British actor called Richard
That's
Griffiths.
Mr. Dursley from Harry Potter.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and he's dead now. He's terrorist number 2.
I'm trying to drink really slowly. Sorry.
Just do it. We'll do it's McDonald's as well. Corporate. Mickey Donald's. Right. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna throw this away. It's done. Sorry.
So Richard Griffiths is one of the terrorists. One of the
generic terrorist number 2, and he's with the guy who got raped in what's that movie called?
Deliverance. Ned Beatty. He's in the first film, and
I thought his name was John Voight. Oh God,
John Voight is Angelina Jolie's dad, who doesn't get raped. He's the one that gets threatened with "You've got a pretty mouth." But then Burt Reynolds' arrow shows up in just the right time to stop it. But Ned Beatty gets
That's John Voight, my bad.
And Ned Beatty's he's Gene Hackman's kind of thick right hand man.
That's
who's
right.
Bumbling right hand man who can't even keep the ladder straight under him. When he's digging around his library for books. But the terrorists on the Eiffel Tower there's 3 people that you would think were anonymous in cinema history, just like 3 morons.
But no.
You look closer, one of them was Richard Griffiths, who played a terrifying character in With Neil and I, a guy who basically he's more than flirting with what's his name again? Paul McGann, the star of the film,
Doctor Who.
And at one point he's like, I must have you even if it must be burglary,
Oh.
Yeah, it's really quite...
Jesus, Richard.
Yeah.
Dickie Griffiths.
So yeah, thanks to Richard Griffiths and his 2 mates putting a nuclear bomb on a lift in the Eiffel Tower, that leads to the freeing of these 3 supervillains. And I mean, this is why Superman 2 is a film that I really like, because
it's sweet. It's
General Zod and his 2 mates, like that girl that's all like, General Zod doesn't take orders, he gives them.
Have you seen the new Superman, like Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman?
Yeah, I've seen them, but not Justice League.
So yeah. So and Justice League as well. Yeah. So these 2 or 3 movies, not so much Justice League, but the first 2, Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, are just depressing remixes of these first 2 Superman movies. And I think that's also what affected it, is because all the General Zod stuff and his General Zod's posse, that's all. I've seen that all before, but in 2014 HD, CGI.
In my opinion, Terence Stamp in 1980 is a more interesting thing than Michael Shannon in that. Because I love Michael Shannon, and one of the things that I really got f***ed off with the Man of Steel is that they cast this, in the wake of Heath Ledger's Joker as well, they cast this interesting character actor thinking, so they're going to do something interesting. We're going to get this terrifying Michael Shannon performance. But think about Take Shelter and films like that he's done, where he's really gripped by anxiety. And we're going to get this thing of evil men in films are doing it out of a place of anxiety and vulnerability almost. We're going to get this balance of all those things. No, it's the most generic, boring villain, with screeds of dialogue that, you just know were written by someone. What else does a villain normally say?
And he's got a lisp, I think.
What else does a villain normally say in these films?
He's got a really nasal voice as well. He's like General Zod.
So
Superman, I will stop you.
So I don't like hence why I've not seen Justice League. I'm not in any hurry. I'm sure it'll show up. It'll be on Sky one day, and I'll be
all these superhero movies are pish. They're fun sometimes.
Right. Okay.
Pretty pish.
I think it's time to just so we've covered Superman being it's got a history there. There's a story behind it.
Yeah.
Superman 3.
Okay.
Right. This is talked about. It's got 4.9 out of 10 on Internet
our
Movie
favourite
Database.
website.
We love that place. 4.9 out of 10. So people think this is crap. I don't think it's crap. I think it's quite good. I would give it 6 or 7 out of 10. I'd say it was a good film. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Right? And my memory of I do remember being a kid and being it's Christmas. Which Superman film's on? It's Superman 3. I do remember that, because as a kid, it's there's something that's about Superman 3 that's a bit of a downer, even though it's more comedic. It's a bit of a downer, because of the whole thing with Superman showing his dark side, the kryptonite with a little bit of tobacco tar mixed in, with the unknown quantity.
Right. So why the hell? So they mix tar in, tobacco tar into the kryptonite, and Superman becomes this.
Instead of killing him, he just like stops. I don't do good anymore. I hope you don't expect me to save you, lady, because I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't get cancer. He doesn't he has no smoking related illness. He just becomes
and he starts pinging peanuts at the mirror, the glass, and the glasses and stuff in a bar and everything. I love it. It's great. And as he's walking out. Yeah, as he's stumbling out of the bar and everyone's like, "Oh my God, what's happened to Superman?" Little is it? I can't remember the kid's name, but Lana Lang is his girlfriend. Ricky, that's it. It's Ricky, yeah. His girlfriend from not his girlfriend. This woman who's now kind of a love interest to replace Margaret Kidder, who, one of the reasons that Margaret Kidder isn't in this film a lot is probably because of like the whole Richard Donner.
So she refused to be part of it.
Team Donner, her and Gene Hackman were on Team Donner, and just like, I don't want to be in this film.
So she was cut down to 5 minutes of screen time with 12 lines of dialogue. I read this morning.
So little Ricky is like, Superman, you'll be good again. You're just in a rat. And I love the scene where he flies off.
He's flying away, and then you can hear the kid's voice
echoing around in his head. You're just in a rat, and you'll be fine again. Just in a rat.
So he goes and tips over the Linea Tour Pisa, like as a bad thing to do. But you can understand, because it's like, that's a good thing to do.
He straightens up that dwindling tower. He rips open an oil ship because Billy Connolly's wife. Billy Connolly's wife, Pamela Stevenson, who is, I think she's pretty. That's another reason why I like watching Superman 3.
Is that the bad blonde, guy's wife?
The blonde ditzy thing.
Yeah. Right. There's a bit where she's reading a book by Kant.
She just like starts musing intellectually, but then and
then the guy walks in. She's like, oh man, no, it's how Superman solves the oil tanker spill. Like, he just flies out to the oil tanker after having destroyed it, and he just blows all the oil, and the oil
presumably salt water as well. Yeah, so we'll get nice salty.
The oil goes straight into the hole that he's created. Like, he just blows it, and it goes straight into the hole he's created perfectly, and then he just like patches up the iron, and then just like scans it with his eyes, and it's all done. Fine, good job, Superman. You invulnerable.
But it's a funny film. It opens with, this is the thing, right? It announces itself. This is a film that probably slapped fanboys in the face the minute it started, because 100%. The opening credits is over a slapstick comedy bit. Yeah. You're going to tell me you didn't like this, but I think it's great. I love it.
I would have liked it had the blooming credits not been over it. Purely
this title Superman 3
huge.
Comes in over 3 telephone boxes that have been hit domino style by a hot dog truck that was hit by a girl on rollerblades.
Thing is, as I'm saying, I would have enjoyed that, but I was so distracted by the titles that I didn't follow what was going on. And I was just like, what the hell is this?
Because
it's very Richard Lester. Because if you've seen A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles, very that kind of comedy, I think.
Yeah, totally.
It's not particularly slapstick, that movie, but it's that kind of jovial, light-hearted comedy. And I was like, what the hell is this doing in a Superman movie? But, yeah.
But I mean, when the Superman 3 title shows up in large writing over 3 telephone boxes that have been knocked over in that way, this is like, just like we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in Smallville anymore. Let's put it that way.
What a bizarre opening.
Sometimes we've got to give things some years to appreciate them for what they are rather than what they're not, rather than hate them for what they're not. I'm not claiming for any second that this is objectively a flawless film. But it's as a stupid film with a mixed bag of stuff in it. It fares pretty bloody good in terms of entertainment and like things to laugh at, things to joke about. It's not like you're laughing at it even. It's laughing with it. You're laughing with it because it's making a big piss. The red man and the green man in the traffic lights fight each other.
That was cool.
They fight each other. That's awesome.
There's some nice moments in it.
And there's like YouTube reviews online and all that of like, and that I'm going to offend a lot of people, but this thing of like being a really uptight geek, where you go, oh, it's like being held down while someone murders your baby right in front of you.
Forget
you know,
that.
it's like, oh, forget it. Yeah, exactly. It's a Richard Lester comedy, and Richard Lester as well. You know, I don't think he cares about Superman. I think he cares about making a comedy,
making
a comedy film. And I've read interviews where he says that he, you know, his thing of comedy is that he wants to make a film that's as serious as a comedy can be without it ceasing to be a comedy. Comedy that's got some thinking behind it. I don't know if Superman 3 is the best example of that type of movie. Like, Christopher Reeve was praised for his acting in this film because of the split personality.
He's only bad guy Superman for like 20 minutes
but it's really powerful stuff. It's like
good.
Anthony Hopkins
why?
in Silence of the Lambs. It's like this thing, you win an Oscar for 8 minutes of screen time. You know, he obviously didn't win an Oscar, but he wins a lot of like people like giving him acting props, because when he's in that mode, you can actually see it in his face. And it's very it's a minimal change that comes over him, and you're like, whoa, he's rocking the evil Superman thing.
Gene Hackman is missing from this movie, sorely missing, I think.
Robert Vaughn is not much of a replacement.
No way. Gene Hackman is amazing. I've only ever seen him in The Royal Tenenbaums and what's the other one? Night Moves. And they're both amazing movies, and he's amazing in both of them.
Well, Gene Hackman is a great actor. I love him in a film called The Conversation that Francis Ford Coppola made after the first Godfather film, but before Apocalypse Now. And it's this unsung gem of a movie that's like falls through the cracks. That is one of the best films of the 70s, and Gene Hackman is so good in it. Yeah, okay. Brilliant.
Interesting.
So Gene Hackman is great, and it was good to see him in the Superman films. But I do think that it is the Clark Kent Superman Lois Lane show for the first two movies.
And it's so missing. So I understand completely why people don't like the third one, purely because it's missing Lois Lane, it's missing Lex Luthor, it's not really got a bad guy in it.
See,
really?
Here's another thing, right? I've got really cheap and nasty reasons for liking Superman 3, right?
But they're enough. For you.
And for me, there are definitely enough, right? And I'm going to add to the list now, because Annette O'Toole plays Lana Lang, who,
she's
has
great.
the son. She's sexy, right? I'm sorry, right? Like Martin Short, there was a movie that with
I can't do it. Okay, what you say?
There's a movie with Martin Short in it where they spend a lot of time in bed naked, and it's a comedy, and I can't remember the name of it, but I just remember like watching it on TV and thinking, what a day's work. Martin Short getting to just like lie around naked with her, and like she's seeing a lot more than we are as the like through the lens of the camera. He's in under the covers with this woman and it's probably like 2 days to shoot that.
She might smell like an absolute rat's ass though. You don't smell that, mate.
Oh yeah, no. But anyway, no. So Annette O'Toole. You're also in Paul Schrader's Cat People, the worthless remake of Cat People that Paul Schrader made. Paul Schrader's the writer of Taxi Driver. He directed Cat People in early 80s with Malcolm McDowell and Natasha Kinski, and Annette O'Toole's in there. She has like a nude scene in that as well. Like, this is the thing, like I back in the VHS days of taping things off TV, I think that I taped a film called Sirens, which is an Australian set movie where Hugh Grant goes to talk to Sam Neill about how he should withdraw a painting from an exhibition because of Christian reasons and stuff. And there's a lot of nudity in it. There's a lot of painting naked women. So I was like, right, I don't want to keep this film anymore, but I want to keep the nudity. So I started taping the nude bits of films around the nude bits in Sirens to have a nudity tape.
Oh.
So I as like a 15-year-old boy, I had this VHS that was loaded with every like nude scene, iconic or otherwise.
It's the most 80s thing I've ever heard in my life.
Iconic or otherwise. So there was like Trading Places, Jamie Lee Curtis in there.
Was Superman's Baby Willie in there?
No,
because that is nudity.
No, it is nudity, but it's not my kind of nudity. And I had this nudity tape in my it's an embarrassing thing, and yet somehow people...
Have you still got it?
No, this is like dead now. It was an embarrassing thing, and yet whenever people came round, they said, "Simon, have you got that nudity tape?" You mean my uncool nudity tape that you take the piss out of me for having this thing? You want to have a look at it, don't you? Like that,
I didn't realize we started a podcast with a guy with a nudity tape.
That's how rich my appreciation of film goes. The nudity tape. So Annette O'Toole was a star of the nudity tape. I loved that scene in Cat People. She just like runs down to get into the pool, and she hears footsteps or something and the growling of a panther, and she just jumps into the pool topless, because she's so terrified. Yeah. So there you go. It was on the tape.
I've not seen it. I'm afraid I haven't seen it. I've only seen the old Cat People, and it was
of its time.
Not that good. It was of its time.
Luton's bus. There's the whole thing about Luton's bus, isn't there? Like misdirection on the screen, and then you get like a noise that gives you a heart attack or whatever.
Perfect. That was a really good moment of the film, actually.
Yeah.
And it's still scary, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a good bit, and it gets a really ham-fisted kind of makeover in Paul Schrader's version, where a bus just comes creaking into the, and you're like, yeah, okay, we got it, Luton bus.
Got it, Paul.
Yeah.
Stop it, Paul.
So I've got really cheap and nasty reasons for liking Superman 3. One of them is Annette O'Toole's presence, just because she's a woman that teenage boy horny. That's all.
It brings you back.
It brings me back from the comatose, of modern existence, really. Yeah. I had this big plan of prefacing this discussion with actually talking about, because there's one last cheap and nasty element to Superman 3, but before we go there, it's actually more appropriate to do it now, right? My favourite sort of section of the Star Wars films, like the old original theatrical trilogy.
Yeah. The best ones. The only Star Wars films.
Empire Strikes Back might be the best movie, beginning, middle, and end, but I definitely vote in terms of just like which portion of the whole trilogy is the best. My vote goes to Jabba's lair at the start of Return of the Jedi, followed by Sandpit with Teeth bit right afterwards, right? And the reason is because if you watch that, right, that is basically a family-friendly exploitation film, right? That is a 70s exploitation film made clean for the family.
Yeah?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Jabba's lair, he's even got a sex slave on a leash. And he puts her, he gets upset with her and opens the trapdoor. Yeah, and tugs on her. And then when Princess Leia comes in, we'll get her in a gold bikini, she can take the place of the last one I had dancing round for me. Yeah.
You wouldn't get that these days.
Luke Skywalker gets dropped into a pit to fight a monster. Everyone's cheering and like humiliation. The humiliation's repeated when they take them out to the sandpit thing. It's like, we're going to watch you jump into this thing and we're going to be clapping and laughing as you do. These are all tropes of exploitation cinema, but they're made family friendly enough that you can slap a universal certificate on it. And this is what I like. This is something that I like. And Superman 3 has a little bit of that, as well as the slapstick thing that apparently fucks it up for people. There's the fact that it's a little bit too nasty in one point, right? The scene where Robert Vaughn's sister with the ginger roots gets yanked into the computer and turned into a cyborg.
That's mental. What's all that about?
But if you ask anyone who watched this when they were a kid, I bet you that just washed over you as like yet another additionally crap scene in a film that had been going on.
I remember being like, that's pretty rad, but then, I don't know. The resolution to that's pretty crap as well. He's just like, I'll pour acid in it.
Which was established earlier at the fire at Smallville, wasn't it? This acid that if it goes past a certain temperature, you're going to be Superman, and so are we. Yeah.
And oh my god, the cyborg scans Superman's anal cavity. It literally says on the computer screen, it's like anal cavity scan, and then it's like 100%, then it's like Superman's holding the acid behind him or something like that.
What is 100%? Is that like saying that's 100% clean anus, Superman? Well done. I
don't know.
You clearly wipe front to back and then back to front.
Yeah, like it scans his area.
That is a 100% sweet anus.
I could be making this up. I watched this morning.
I'm going to watch it again just to see this 100% thing. That is brilliant.
I watched that this morning.
Oh man, that's good. But she gets pulled. Right, here's the thing, right? I'm not the only person to know this, obviously, because there's film scholarly types out there. But the difference between a scene like that just goes along and a scene that really sticks into the minds of lots of kids. If you talk to anyone my age, this thing happens where they go, oh yeah, you know what, actually, that cyborg bit, as a kid I was actually quite freaked out by that. I don't know why.
That's bizarre.
I don't know why, right? I know why.
Why? Right? Tell me why. Enlighten me.
Because when she gets pulled into the computer, all the synthesizer, this film's got kind of it's got its John Williams. It's
by Giorgio Moroder, right?
Yeah, it's got a Williams score, but it's got this new synthy stuff going on in it as well of its 1983 sort of time. Just as she's dragged into this computer and the wires are crossing her face and stuff, the soundtrack drops out and you just hear her screams against naked silence.
That's right.
And it cuts to the faces of Robert Vaughn and Billy Connolly's wife, Pamela Stevenson. Billy Connolly, you lucky. Don't worry, we're cutting it. Don't worry.
No, I approve. Okay. Oh my god.
It cuts to their faces responding in horror to what's going on against the silence
of just the death scream
and
of
the
lady.
backdrop of that. That is the difference. If you were to even put that in front of a child today, I'm sure if you were watching them watch it, you would see this look come over their face.
A little bit of anxiety.
That tiny creep of, it's gone a bit scary. And even though it's just for 3 seconds, 4 seconds, that is a significant thing to drop the soundtrack there.
I was scared of the have you seen Toy Story 2? You know the bit where Andy is his name. Andy chucks Woody into the barrel of toys and it's all arms and legs and then they like all tugging at him and then he's trying to pull Woody out and it's like all the arms and legs are stuck to him and he gets sucked under. It's like this horrific nightmare sequence. That freaked me out as a kid. So I'm pretty sure that sort of same kind of thing.
I think filmmakers have got a really sort of weird they're in a quandary when it comes to frightening bits in movies that are intended for children, because as a director you're probably enjoying the power of the material that you're working. You're seduced by the fact that you can do this thing. It's going to be even scarier if we take the soundtrack out, or if we do it this way, or if we change the lighting this way. But it's this thing of you're not supposed to scare children completely out of their wits. You're not meant to depress a child and like have them leaving the cinema going, that was a bit of a downer.
See, but that's good though.
Superman 3 kind of does that, and it's that thing of it's the downer Superman film.
No, because I think so. At the end of the first Superman movie, where Lois Lane dies and he's pure screaming at the clouds like I was like, what's going to happen if they just killed Lois Lane? And that kind of genuine moment of oh my god, they've actually gone this way. I think that's necessary for a kids' film.
Yeah.
Because this my main complaint of Marvel movies nowadays. So like the superhero movies that everyone's watching, everyone's talking about these days, is that there's no consequences to anything. It's all just like action. People get out of these impossible situations at all times. Nothing changes movie to movie at all. In fact, in Civil War, a character gets shot out the sky and he ends up paralyzed because he lands from like a really high height, lands straight on the ground at the end of the movie, and it's like, oh my god, this I think his name's Rhodey. Rhodey's been paralyzed. Oh no! And then at the end of the movie, Tony Stark's like hands him a gadget, and he's able to walk again. And then by the newest movie, he's completely normal and he's able to fly about and walk again. And it's like there's no consequences to anything. I don't think that's useful for kids whatsoever.
Well, Harrison Ford, everyone called him out for hypocrisy around about the time that he was making the fourth Indiana Jones film and cowboys and aliens and things like that. He was called out for hypocrisy for criticising films for this thing of they have the scale. You lose a sense of scale and it just feels like you're watching someone play a video game.
That's definitely it. It's an unplayable video game.
It's an unplayable video game. That is a totally legit criticism. I don't care if he acts in films that the same criticism can be laid. He didn't make them. This is him basically being able to say what a lot of people aren't able to say, and then he can go to work with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg the next day.
Because he's Harrison Ford.
It's because you're Harrison Ford. We're still going to hire you, even though we don't really like you babbling all this, legitimate criticisms about how terrible our work has become. But I appreciated him for telling the truth and being honest. Because he was right. And that's exactly the truth about these films. You've got a sense of, something could go really bad. But
nothing ever does.
Yeah.
See, I like to make the comparison of, so the generation growing up now are growing up with these Marvel movies where nothing bad ever happens. Or if something bad happens, it's resolved by the end of the movie, done. And then you compare that to something like the Harry Potter movies, which are the movies I grew up with. and like horrific stuff happens in those films, and they scare the crap out of you, and people die, and you know, horrible stuff happens all the way through the Harry Potter movies. And I genuinely think that's kind of useful, that light trauma from films, and you do not get that in the new superhero movies.
No, I think there's a difference. Like where Superman 3 gets criticised is because maybe that just the balance isn't exactly right to leave you feeling
it's tonally all over the place.
Feeling good, you know. But
it's very,
when you
very tonally mental.
Like what I'm saying is, I emerged in my late 20s or something as a fan of some pretty fucked up films, you know, exploitation movies and stuff like that. And then this sort of twinkle of, you know, remembering, you know, Superman 3 was a bit like that, and just being like, and Return of the Jedi, you know, it's like it's exploitation tropes kind of managed to kind of sneak their way in there. And you know, watching Superman 3 again, also Richard Lester is a fan. He's enough of a fan of Jacques Tati to have talked about Jacques Tati in like a DVD or Blu-ray box set, the BFI one. There's like a special feature where he's talking specifically about Tati. Now, Jacques Tati, that's an example of what Richard Lester claims to be aiming for all the time, whether he gets there or not. It's this thing of, it's a comedy, but it's as serious as a film can be without ceasing to be a comedy. And you know, like, I love his film, Tati's film My Uncle, because it's about this thing of technology. You know, it's got this sort of the guise of anything that's a technological advancement. It's under the guise of this is going to improve your life, and all it does is sort of, you know, switch around the effort that's being made. Instead of making the effort to open a cabinet door, you're making the effort to find the remote that you hit the button and the cabinet door opens. It's just, that's in My Uncle. Is this futuristic house where everything is, you know, controlled by gadgetry that's completely unnecessary. Right. And this is a joke.
Super interesting. Yeah.
This is a joke that is like all over. You know, like so many movies, like Gremlins and Superman 3, and you know, like lots of films just like make this joke about it. It's technology mad. The world's technology mad, and we're mad about it, and it's all stupid and it's guff. So yeah, I think that's kind of. I think Richard Lester might have held, you know, he might have held Jacques Tati up as sort of like an influence enough that, you know, that was in his head, you know? And objectively speaking, that's a good influence to have as a filmmaker. If you start dragging that into the Superman series, you've got like a lot of guys and girls coming to see this film, like, this is Superman 3. Wait a minute, why are we watching a blind?
You've ruined my Superman movies.
Why are we watching a blind man like walking around painting the road because his his dog gets lost, and the thing that paints the yellow lines up the road, he's like,
he just draws a big circle on the road. What the hell is that? Oh.
And I love the way that in that sequence, that opening sequence, Christopher Reeve just innocuously arrives and blows a fire out that's on like some battery operated penguin that's charging around the city. He just arrives in his suit with his briefcase. It's like, oh, there's Christopher Reeve, the star of the movie. He just walks into this frame, blows the fire out, and then walks out again. And it's this thing of like, that's actually a really interesting way to like introduce your main character. It's like instead of like when the band comes out on a stage and it's the drummer first and everyone's like, and then it's the guitarist and bassist, and then the singer arrives and everyone's like, whoa. It's much. I appreciate bands where the singer just runs on with a big smile on their face and starts playing the guitar and it's ahead of everyone else. Christopher Reeve kind of does that. It's like, you know, we'll just have him just walk into onto
Do you think
the frame.
that's like ineptitude on the part of Lester? Is that like?
No.
Did he do that on purpose?
I think that's totally.
Yeah.
Instead of making a big intro to this character, we're going to have this chaotic world, and the guy's just going to walk into frame, blow the fire out, and then walk out again, and we're going to be like, that's the lead character of this film. Woo!
So strange. It's such a bizarre movie.
I like it. Ding. That's one of my favourite things about the film. It's the first time that you see Christopher Reeve as in the Clark Kent suit with the hat. Again, his silhouette he's one of those people that's recognisable by silhouette, which is a Jacques Tati thing as well. You know, Christopher Reeve is like this big.
He's an iconic dude. We need to talk about Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor, yeah, okay.
So Richard Pryor is in Superman 3 in a bizarre comedic role, which is kind of crucial to the plot as well. And he got a lot of heat for it back in the day, didn't he?
Yeah. Basically, he said on a chat show how much he enjoyed watching Superman 2. So he got the invite to be in Superman 3. Well, why is Richard Pryor in a Superman film?
I think he got paid a quarter of the budget of this movie as well. I think he got paid like $5 million.
And it's kind of an ad-libby type comedy that he does, but it's not actually.
It's not Richard Pryor comedy, though.
Yeah, the criticism is that it's not actually that funny. It's basically like, oh, he's drunk and he needs to hack into a computer. He needs to drag a guy who's passed out. This sort of thing. It's not actually,
It's not particularly enlighteningly funny. And there's a bit where he's in pink skis and a pink and a pink cape, and he skis off the side of a building, lands on a bit of glass that doesn't shatter after he's fallen off a skyscraper, slides down the roof, lands on the pavement, and I think he's on the road then he like skirts across the road, and then all the taxis are stopping going, "Hey, get out the way, man!" And he's like, "Oh, sorry." It's like you just fell off a roof, Richard Pryor.
Fell off a skyscraper. A skyscraper.
Augustus, I think his name is.
Gus or Augustus, yeah. You were talking about like there not being any consequences to things, right? Not only
there you go.
Not only does he survive that, right? But like Robert Vaughn's character catches him out swindling every decimal point of everyone's wages together. Like, just tell the computer to group them all together. Oh, I've got like 86 grand or something.
Take 0.5% off of every employee's wages. I read online that if he was to have taken 0.5% off of everyone's wages and he got $85,000 in his first check, then it means that the company employs 17 million people.
It probably does. But Robert Vaughn catches him,
stupid.
And he catches him because, of course, he just drives to work the next day in a Ferrari.
And the shot of him driving into work in the Ferrari is brilliant. It's like from the window, and then he like pure skirts into.
This is a criminal mastermind. He's going to lay low, keep a low profile, looks out the window,
and
there
it's
he
just
is.
Richard Pryor going, "Ah!" That's stupid, man.
Right, so Robert Vaughn catches him out.
Yeah.
Does he punish him? Nah. You're going to help me. You're going to be like, there you know. Superman at the end of the movie takes the guy out of his evil thing that he's been a big part of. He's been a big part of helping this guy along, building a computer that nearly kills Superman. Superman plonks him down, in a sort of
coal mine.
Does he punish him? No, he gives him a worker's reference.
He steals money.
Gets a promotion. He tries to kill Superman and gets a work reference.
He causes a natural disaster. He falls off
a skyscraper and lives.
I love that moment when the satellite causes the natural disaster in Colombia or something, and there's like American tourists in Colombia. They're like, "Oh look, a native wedding," and then it's like it's like a church in Colombia. It's like, how different could it be? Like, oh my god, it's so stupid, man. A native wedding is something like that. It's something like that. Oh my god.
I like it. I like it because Clark Kent eats dog food.
He does, and he continues to eat it. He's like, "Oh, that's great." Yeah. It's like, what if you're pretending to be that goofy? Why would you continue eating dog food? Like, you're just committing to the act that well.
I mean, there's definitely there's things about Superman that I spot now, and I go, you know what? I thought remember that actually got a laugh out loud moment. That's ridiculous. Like when I was a kid, I must have been really stupid. Maybe we were all stupid in the 80s. But the scene where he flies, evil Superman flies to the Statue of Liberty, where Pamela Stephenson, I'm not going to describe her as Billy Connolly's wife this time. She is Pamela Stephenson, a great comedic actress and writer. Pamela Stephenson is posing as someone who might throw herself off the Statue of Liberty, and he comes flying over, and she goes in her high-pitched voice, "I thought you'd never get here." That got us giggling back then. Like,
it's so weird.
That's not even funny, right?
Yeah.
But you know what? If you watch The Cosby Show now, right? The Cosby Show, this is an 80s thing, right? Things that aren't funny, we were in such an effort to find everything funny back then that, Bill Cosby would turn to his son and go, "Where are you going with that?" And there'd be like canned laughter cueing that was a joke. Where are you going with that? He's going out the room with it. It's not
I ain't a joke, dude.
Where are you going with that, son? Oh, what a knee slapper.
He did it again.
Oh.
Actually, I noticed that there was a lot of aged comedy in all of these, in all three of these Superman
and this is
movies.
something that I wouldn't even hold against it.
It's
would
like
just
quippy nonsense. Like,
I'd be too busy thinking, look at how nicely stylized things are. Look at I'd be looking at other things and not really noting that as like a point to like hold against it.
Yeah. Very, very weird. So I kept on saying gross last podcast. I keep saying weird this podcast.
Weird, gross, weird.
Weird is my word.
Last podcast as well, I'm going to, Farley. It's Farley Brothers, isn't it? It's not Farrelly.
I don't know.
Is it Farley? I think it's Farley Brothers. I was saying Farrelly, and
did I say Farrelly? I probably just.
I said Farrelly Brothers, and then I kept saying Farrelly with the underscore under the L-E. I think it's Farley. It's a far with the underscore under the A. Farley Brothers, right? Apologies to people. I kept saying it. Farrelly.
Sorry, I imagine we're doing lots of things wrong. It's early doors.
Wait a minute, Shallow Hal. That's a Farrelly Brothers film as well. It's like, no, it's a Farley Brothers film.
You could have. In fact, tell you what. Let's edit it in so it's just us saying Farley, like
Farley.
Yeah,
Farley.
That's what we'll do.
If I just edit that Farley into every one, I don't think that'll work. I think that sounds stupid.
That'd be funny though.
Farley.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I've got a quote from Superman, the first one, 1978. There's a wonderful bit, you might remember this, where a pilot looks outside the window and sees Superman holding onto the wing or something like that. He's holding the plane together. And
he flies where the engine is. Where the engine used to be. Yeah. So the engine breaks up and falls off.
It could be the same one that goes into Donnie Darko's bedroom.
Oh my god.
Wouldn't that be a thing?
That'd be sweet. Yeah. No. So Superman flies where the engine is, and he just holds the plane up and just flies as an engine.
And the pilot turns to look at his co-pilot, and he said, "He's such wooden acting." He goes, "Don't look, just fly. We got something. I ain't saying what it is. Just trust me." And with that, I think we should just fly onto our next film, which is
Masters of the Universe, 1987, the He-Man movie to end all He-Man. I've not actually seen it.
Well, people would just say the He-Man. Have you seen the He-Man movie?
Is it the He-Man movie?
Yeah, well, it's called Masters of the Universe, but people say, oh, they've seen the He-Man film with Dolph, whatever his Rocky 4.
He's like a mix between, oh god, you're not going to know who this is. Logan Paul?
No.
He's a mix between Logan Paul and Tommy Wiseau.
Right, well, I know who Tommy Wiseau is now.
Yeah, he's like
Steve Zissou, but not.
He's like a big, ripped, blonde-haired Tommy Wiseau.
He does have like a bit of Sly Stallone's voice in him at times. Yeah,
but then it's like mixed with like a weird Arnold Schwarzenegger like imitation. He's just Dolph Lundgren's like a cheap, nasty Arnold Schwarzenegger.
With
Sorry,
yellow
Dolph.
hair.
Don't hit me, Dolph. Is he still alive?
He is alive, yeah, he's alive. He's actually a really intelligent guy. This is what you hear about, he's like got like a Mensa IQ or something, It's like,
and he played He-Man. Oh,
yeah. Well, I mean, you've got to,
everyone's got to start somewhere.
Once you've got, well, on screen, that's kind of where he's limited, but off screen, he can do all sorts of things with that amazing brain of his.
Yes. He's you know something. The thing that went through my head when I was watching this movie, which is absolutely awful movie, by the way.
No.
I do not like it.
No.
You look raging. But this movie, right? So, what I liked about it, right? Let's get into what we liked then, right? So, what I liked about it was that Dolph Lundgren's He-Man is a character that most nerds probably can't dress up as in like conventions because he's this big macho rip mother and nerds are all fat and have weird beards and that.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's true.
Like,
one of the funniest scenes in this film is just the sight of Lundgren in that costume running along the street at night, and you're just like, it comes in there right when you're just needing a good laugh, and you're like, look at that thing.
What an absolute clown. Dolph. What nationality is he? Is he Austrian? Lundgren.
I just wish that we'd googled that first.
We ought to have googled him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Outside of this film, Dolph Lundgren's career has got some really like cool moments, and there's a film called Showdown in Little Tokyo where he co-stars with Brandon Lee.
Wait, what? It's called
Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Not Big Trouble in Little China.
Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Does he just star in knockoff movies? Because this is a knockoff of Conan and like, oh my God,
so many other things, yeah. Showdown in Little Tokyo. So Brandon Lee, who's famous for The Crow now, the late Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, and Dolph Lundgren, as well as Tia Carrere, is that her name?
That's the Wayne's World lassie.
Yeah, and she was in True Lies as well with Arnie Schwarzenegger. Yeah, it's the three of them, right? But there's a scene in Showdown in Little Tokyo where Brandon Lee has seen Dolph Lundgren in the tub with Tia Carrere. He basically admits that he voyeured on them while they were together in the tub, and he goes, "You have got the biggest I have ever seen on a man." And Dolph Lundgren kind of goes in a kind of coy. He kind of goes, "Oh, thanks. I don't know what to say."
He's like, "It's true. No acting required."
Unbelievable. But I was like, can they really just like throw shit like this into films to make them more memorable and watchable? Apparently they can. Apparently
well, you remember
they
it.
Did.
This was decades ago.
Yeah, they did.
Big Dolph is still in your head.
They wrote that, and I remember it. Yep.
That's funny because like, they probably didn't think too much about that.
Yeah,
probably just like we need a funny bit here.
Well, that all-time great bit in is it Shark Attack 3 where John Barrowman. The line that he ad-libbed it to make the co-star laugh, to make his the woman that he was doing the scene with laugh. He just goes, "Hey, I'm still really wired. What say I take you back to your place and eat your He just throws it in there. He did it to make her laugh as a sort of goof, and they kept it in.
And it's the best.
Because the film is so terrible that the director was like, "We're going to leave it in."
Brilliant.
That's like
this is gold, John.
That's the funniest line in the movie. We're leaving it in. Thank you.
Good job.
Like so
you have to wonder how many lines like that are that could have been in movies that are actually not. Like there could be like the most serious, like the cutting room floor. Like imagine like a movie like what's the most serious movie I can think of? Like Schindler's List.
If there was a gag reel at the end of Schindler's List.
like an outtakes reel for Schindler's List. Can you imagine? Oh my god. Let's not even go into that. I think that's uncharted territory. Right, anyway, so He-Man. What's good about this movie? Tell me.
The opening credits, what film is it ripping off?
Superman.
Superman 3. The first scene, what film is it ripping off?
Star Wars?
Yeah, it goes from space, outer space, writing just like zooming into shot, outer space. Funnily enough, right, on last week's episode, I talked about Julia Roberts' Tom Conti goof.
Yes.
Right, there was a conductor who she was aiming some abuse at, and she said Tom Conti instead of Bill Conti. Bill Conti is the composer of this score.
Is that right?
It's the guy. And I actually looked
He's like a cheap rip-off of John Williams.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably got some good work to it. I mean, like, the thing is about people that do that, they've got like 250 credits to their name, and some of it's quite good, Probably, yeah, I'm guessing. But Bill Conti, I looked into it, yeah, and basically what it was, right, is he was the conductor at the start of the Oscars when she won for Erin Brockovich, and he'd been responding to the order to shoo people off with music, as they always do, and he was noticing over his like left ear or whatever that someone was getting quite irate in the second or first row, and it was Julia Roberts. He shouldn't be doing it, And when she got up on stage, she referred to him as Stick Man, who's been doing a wonderful job all evening and stuff, and was quite nasty about it.
Quite nasty.
Yeah.
Damn.
And it was funny when Bill Conti was talking about it. He was talking about how she was there with her boyfriend of the evening. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, she was there with a male escort like that, and it's like, who was an actor who I'd just done a movie with, some blood something or another, and it's got Benjamin, someone who was in Miss Congeniality as well. I can't remember his full name, but basically it's a sort of he's a B-list actor whose girlfriend is Julia Roberts, and he was there with her that night listening to this crap about how the conductor shouldn't be starting up music when all this sort of stuff. Is it Bill Conti says that basically he'd had a word with her, and she sent me flowers the next day to apologise, and then a year later when she's referred to him as Tom Conti by accident, as if anyone in the Oscars audience or the TV audience would know that she was referring to last year's Oscars anyway. Like, we've all forgotten.
No one cares, Julia.
We've all forgotten about that bullshit.
You
she comes on and says, "I'm so glad that Tom Conti's not here tonight," as if everyone's going to go, "Oh, you mean Bill Conti, the composer."
She's like held on to this for a year of her life. Like, she's thinking about it every single day. She's on the treadmill in the morning, and she's thinking about this Mr. Conti all the time. And everyone else has moved on with their lives, and everyone else is having a good time at the Oscars, and she's still sitting there stewing away at this thing.
I'm going to get my dig in.
Yeah. And she gets it, and Simon remembers it 30 years later.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. Who's more pathetic? Me, I'm the most pathetic guy ever, because I just like remember the fact that Julia Roberts made this dire,
this awful dig
thing out of herself. And but the thing is, Empire magazine or something made a story about how this is an example of like celebrities being like completely crazy. They've got inflated ideas about how how important things are, and she made this big joke about Bill Conti. I'm doing a good job of not talking about a film that I really want to defend here.
Right, okay.
Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I asked you for a third time. What is good about it, Simon?
Right. Well, again, it goes back to this thing of like it's a bit cheap and nasty and exploitation-y, but at a PG rated level.
I don't think it's that cheap art. Like, it's not like, I think it's really well done. Like, all the costumes are great.
Well, no, Skeletor's dreadful in it.
Cool.
Skeletor's got like a face like someone puked pancake mix on his face, and they're trying to call that a skull. It's like, that's not a skull. You can see his human eyes, and it's just like raised bumpy skin, and the black bits where his nose is meant to be holes, you can actually see the light reflected on the material.
Yeah, but I think the sets are pretty cool and stuff.
There's some good sets, right? But it's a bit cheap and nasty, and it's a bit like got an exploitation vibe, but at a PG level. Because like when I like the scene where Evil Lynn introduces your four best warriors or whatever to Skeletor.
One's called like
Blade, Beastman, Blade, and
Schlim, and blah, 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 and
one of them's called Karg. Karg is the funniest one because Karg's got like an 80s heavy metal mullet.
He does, and it all blows about when he transports different places. So what's this movie about? What's the plot? What's the plot here? So Skeletor takes over the castle of Skull Rock or something.
Castle Grayskull.
Grayskull.
He's got this sorceress woman that's all crystalline white. He's got her captive.
Looks like the bald Me Too woman.
Well, here's the thing, right? Courtney Cox is in this movie from Friends.
She's very young.
She's very young in it. She's just having been in Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark music video, fresh from that, I think, probably. And this sorceress woman is played by the actress that plays her mum in Friends.
Is that right?
It's Christina Pickles.
I've actually never seen a full episode of Friends in my life.
It's a big part of I was a teenager in the 90s. I watched that every week.
I could name them all. I can name all the Friends, but I haven't watched an episode.
But yeah, through. Ross and Monica's parents are played by Elliot Gould, great actor, and Christina Pickles, who was in this movie with. I bet you when they first arrived. Well, Courtney Cox had been in it for a season or a season and a half or something. So you can imagine that, and then suddenly, who's cast as my mum? Christina. Oh, Christina! I know her. And Christina
cool. What
comes
movie,
in. Courtney?
Christina
comes in and she's like, "Hey, remember we made that piece of shit He-Man for Dolph Lundgren? No balls, Just imagine it, you just imagine the conversations they had on the set of like Monica's apartment. And it's just like, Dolph Lundgren, no balls running around, in front of us.
So can we assume that Courtney Cox was like an up and comer when this movie came out?
Yeah, and she was also an up and coming actress as well when she was in Ace Ventura.
Is she in Ace Ventura?
Yes. When Friends started, the reason I watched it is because I was like, there's that girl with black hair who's hot, who was in Ace Ventura and Masters of the Universe, like 7 years ago.
Was this movie like big when it came out? No.
I was in quite a hurry to watch it when it came out, and I watched it, and I was like,
So you liked it when it came out?
Yeah, I liked it enough when it came out.
Because I think it's developed a following over time.
Now it's exactly the right kind of campy, cheesy shit that people love to like in a retro kind of way.
Yeah.
And not every 80s film has this. Like, you can't say that you'll just gravitate towards everything that's bad. And the proof for that is like there's a film from the 80s called King Solomon's Mines with Richard Chamberlain and Sharon Stone.
That, I think.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think that I just wanted to talk about it in this episode because it's just like Bill Conti's efforts doing the theme tune for it's pathetic. It's like and it's just like they've been given a brief, right? I need you to rip off Superman, but not so much that you get sued for it.
Yeah.
Just enough that everyone knows exactly
it's like, right,
who you're
so it's
ripping
like
off.
there's this big long street with tons of houses, and they're all playing the Superman theme song outside the houses, and you're on a motorbike and you're driving past all the houses, and you just get glimpses of the Superman theme song as you're going past. It's just like da da da. Yeah, you just
do that
every now and again.
Well, Jerry Goldsmith, who's a great, he's definitely a good film composer, and you do like the Gremlins theme tune.
Of course, okay.
He
So,
does
classic,
he does King Solomon's Mines theme tune. It's exactly the same brief. Rip off John Williams, but it's not Superman or Star Wars. It's Indiana Jones. And King Solomon's Mines. What is it like? Is it pure right? It's exactly the same sound as the Indiana Jones themes, but it's that
sounds
tune.
like it, yeah.
And at the end, with the same musical instruments and everything, it'd be same sound, but it's to that tune. And those three notes at the end, it goes da da da. It's like it's the musical equivalent of when someone can't be bothered finishing the sentence they've started.
And
you totally Jerry Goldsmith. It was like I know you get the gist, right? It sounds like Indiana Jones. Just we'll go.
Just use your imaginations, audience.
And then we start it again. We go back to the ostinato thing, whatever. John Williams doing Superman, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones. Basically, those are three things that just got absolutely like pilfered to for like
to this day.
Oh God, and it's just like, can you do? I just wonder if people bother saying it anymore. Can you do kind of a John Williams thing when it's like a cut rate thing and all that? I forgot to say that like Gremlins has just come up in conversation, right? Via Jerry Goldsmith thing. I did want to say as well, like Gremlins 2, which is a film I'm a big fan of. Joe Dante's a good director. I like him, right? But like you think of that as being a major film, just like with Masters of the Universe, you're trying to decide whether or not it is actually that cheap. Right? Gremlins 2 was a budget of 50 million, and it ended up being a flop. It made 41.5 million.
How do you know this?
I just remember. Yeah, right. No, right, but no, the opening scene of Gremlins 2, it's over the opening credits after there's been like a Warner Brothers cartoon bickering between Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and you get this swooping shot of the city, and it's Gremlins 2, the new batch. That swooping shot is an outtake from Superman.
Is that right?
It's stock footage, yeah.
That's amazing.
Shaving off, expenses at every turn. Most movies are in that predicament where it's like we don't actually have as much money as people think we do. And so and you can actually, when I watch Superman 1, I actually can spot a bit of landscape, cityscape that looks similar. I was like, that's the Gremlins 2 bit of 3 buildings by the ocean. This film as well. I think that He-Man, this film will be way cheaper than you think it is. Right. Just like with Gremlins 2 and the whole, we'll cut corners here and there, right?
Yeah,
if you notice, right, it kind of, in a way, they're saved because the story justifies it, right? This isn't like the Terminator where you come through a portal and you're stuck there and one thing's chasing you and you have to cross bridges and go wherever you need to go to. They come through to Earth, they don't even know where the f*** they are, and they want to get back. It was just like that sort of on a whim. When Gwindor's got the cosmic key and he's going like this on it over it.
Gwindor freaks me out.
They've got to get back as soon as possible. They're only there by accident anyway, right? This justifies the fact that they come to California to visit 3 locations, right? There's the school, the guitar shop, the roof of some building, right? I suppose during the day they go to the KFC knockoff place to steal some chicken as well, which is where Courtney Cox had worked, and right by the cemetery as well.
So Gwindor, for anyone who's not seen the film, is a dwarf with a massive big ginger beard and a big plastic face because it was clearly made in some knockoff Jim Henson type workshop.
Exactly.
But he's got these big lips that don't move in time with his speech, and his eyes are freaky. He just looks awful. He just...
The actor
really
that plays him, Bill Barty, is the actor that plays him, and he's in Willow. Like, Willow was a film that Ron Howard directed, and a lot of people laugh. At the time, my dad laughed at the fact that it was like payday for the small people, because every famous person
Every
who
famous dwarf
who was around at the time
was in Willow.
They got a job there, and it was like, yes, are they going to make a sequel? No, yeah, weird. So
They get roles in Game of Thrones, Star Wars,
but they've got to fight for them. In Willow, they all got to work together, and no one.
What's Willow about actually?
Well, this is another thing that's really funny.
Is that
right?
a Leprechaun movie? No.
Warwick Davis, who played the Leprechaun, is the star. He's Willow.
But what is Willow? Is Willow a leprechaun? No,
it's like there's this sort of village of small people in a sort of fairy tale land, and there's an evil witch who needs to kill a baby because the baby's got all this princessy power.
And are the babies played by?
And the baby gets sent down a river and found by Willow, and Willow he's then given the quest of, I've got to take this baby to a land where and it's the most simplified sort of bullshit thing. It's just an excuse for lots of chases, and Val Kilmer is in it wisecracking his way through the film and stuff. The really funny thing though, if you watch the special features to it on the DVD, George Lucas is the producer of that film, and he says with complete sincerity and no kind of shame in his facial expression or voice, he goes, Willow was a concept I was working on for 4 years. And I was like, what? 4 years of your life to get to basically we're going to take the costumes off the Ewoks and let them be human faces, and a baby's going to float into the river. Take the baby to somewhere.
The genius George Lucas.
4 years, honestly.
Wow.
You would think it was 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's that kind of movie. I've not seen. I probably will never watch it.
I quite like it. It's quite funny. It's quite good fun.
Yeah. So Masters Universe reminds me of. Do you remember the Power Rangers? I think they're still about. Yeah, but Power Rangers is that really schlocky crap action fantasy bullshit. And I remember my cousins really loved Power Rangers, and I just thought they were the lamest thing ever, and I still do. And they have that kind of creepy, cheap character design and all that crap. And this is exactly what's in this. It's just everything about it is really creepy and not quite right, I don't think. And Gwyn, is it Gwyn?
Gwyndor just is a
Gwyndor
bit of a
is a perfect example. Oh, he freaks me out.
Freaky little dude, he's
KFC. He's eating the KFC, and he's like, ooh.
Which isn't called KFC, it's called something else.
It's called Robbie's or something.
Yeah, and he literally pours that chili sauce down his
and it goes all
chin.
down his chin. Oh my god,
love it. Yeah.
I have a confession to make. I didn't watch the whole of this movie. I'm sorry, Simon. I watched the first hour and 15 minutes. I watched up until the bad guy Skeletor arrives on Earth and basically chains up He-Man and takes him away. And just as he's leaving, the remaining good guys who have not been taken by him, he goes, "You can all rot. You can rot." And he says it like 3 times, and then he goes,
"Rot." You can
and
rot.
what I did,
I'm going to say that to people.
Yeah.
I didn't even. You know what? I'm too busy enjoying the whole movie because I love it that I actually missed that.
It was a fight. I had to. I was bored. I was watching it this morning, and I was just like, I don't watch this.
But when the cosmic key opens up and it's like your do do do
Oh,
do
I can't do it.
There's a great bit where
hold on. So I stopped it at that moment purely because I didn't want to just stop it willy-nilly. I wanted to stop it at a point where it made narrative sense, and this point makes narrative sense because, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know the last half hour of the movie. So as far as I'm concerned, He-Man's never saved. The bad guys always win. And they're just, as far as I'm concerned, that's just...
You can rot. You can rot.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's the end of the film. The bad guy won. They can all rot, and that's it.
Courtney Cox has got like a sore on her leg. She's been zapped, and you actually did you see the scabby bit on her leg?
I didn't. No.
You see the scabby bit on her leg later on, and the woman, is it Tally or something like that? Chelsea Fields, just like Annette O'Toole, kind of for the turning up the heat.
This podcast is fast becoming like an advent calendar of Simon's desires.
Yeah, I wish you could just see my head like rocking back and forth with kind of like Chelsea Fields. Like when they showed her the costumes, so basically it's going to look like I'm wearing a thong over grey tights. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Very.
But she looks a little bit Tron-y, doesn't she?
Very, very Tron meets Red Sonja. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So Courtney Cox gets zapped in the leg, and it's like the poison's entering her blood. We need to get her to the sorceress.
Right, so I've not seen this.
They've got to get her back, chasing after Skeletor. They've got to use that cosmic key thing, but it's broken. The music dude has got to remember the melody, and he's a bit where he's like, dum 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 dum. Hang on, I'm getting distracted. Dum dum. He's trying to remember that tune. And
I bet he gets it in the
Gwendor's like, of course, you're a song master, aren't you? Yeah, like that. And he has to the wire in a keyboard, and he plays the shit to get them back to Eternia.
No way.
Right, I'll give you another. You see, after the end credits of this film, Skeletor.
Is there an after credits scene?
There's an after credits scene.
Whoa!
You can see it on YouTube.
Wow.
I know that you're going to race to YouTube to watch it, right? Skeletor has been dropped into a pit, much like the Emperor, and is thrown over by Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. He's like thrown over this thing. He's disappearing into this lava or something like that. After the credits, his head of course pops up and he goes, "I'll be back." Actually ripping off Arnie's line, believe it or not. The cemetery is there's a good line. So Courtney Cox's parents are dead. She's splitting up with her boyfriend to move away and start anew, because that's exactly what you do when you're grieving. You just change everything.
Cut all ties.
Yeah, even if you're still kind of attached to this guy, you would just break up with him and move city and get a new job doing exactly the same thing 50 miles down the road. That's exactly what you would do. You've got to change scenery. But she says, "I wish I could change things," and her boyfriend says, "But you can't. That only happens in fairy tales." And just as he says fairy tales, you didn't notice how wonderful this scene was when you were dismissing it earlier. Just as he says fairy tales, the lamps in the graveyard go on.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
That's the moment that the lamps go on. The street lights are switched on, and there's lamps around the graveyard as well, around the pathways and things. And they go on right as he says, right after the word fairy tales, to indicate that this is a fairy tale that's in the real, fairy tales do come true, you cynical basically.
Yeah.
Because streetlights go on at just the right time
to
prove you
That's
wrong.
the magic of the cinema. Can I predict what happens in the last half hour of the movie? Yeah. So He-Man breaks out of his prison from.
Give it a shot, mate. You're not going to know what.
He-Man breaks out of his prison from Skeletor. His mates come and fight. The lassie survives. And then at the end, the lassie gets back together with her boyfriend? No?
Yeah.
Does she?
Yeah.
Courtney Cox, yeah? Gets right back with her boyfriend.
You're missing, the light, right, okay. There's huge touchstones here that you're totally missing, right?
It's just so predictable. Oh.
Dolph Lundgren's He-Man is encaged. He's got the wrist braces on. He's tied.
But does he go, and pull it off?
I think the guy called Blade, I think it's him. He gets this lightning, electric, lightsabery version of a whip. So it's like a lightsaber, but it's a whip instead of a sword.
Right.
And
so we see He-Man at his worst.
Whipping He-Man. It's a total S&M bondage fantasy site. Is Dolph Lundgren in leather, across his naked body, getting whipped by Blade. And you can just imagine gay bears leaning forward going,
I love this movie. I love this scene.
And then when he gets kind of escapes and the fighting starts all over again, somehow Skeletor ends up getting blinged up in some giant gold costume.
Oh, okay.
And he's all like, before he gets blinged up, the lightning's going over his face. And he's like, I can feel it throwing right through me, flowing through me. He gets all blinged up in gold. And it leads to a fight where Dolph Lundgren picks up his sword and says that line, "I have the power," and there's a hilarious kind of reverb on his voice and everything as the music reaches the crescendo underneath it. I have
so he actually does it. So he has no charisma whatsoever. And he's barely a main character either. I don't think he's from the start. He's with a group of people.
Quite sensibly, the writer and directors, whatnot, they decided to break it up and share screen time with some really rich and varied characters.
Yeah, real complex there, isn't it? Yeah.
As for this whole, does she get back together with the boyfriend?
Of course she does.
It's not about getting back together with the boyfriend. Gwildor, with this little ginger freaky initiative that he's got, he sends her back to before her parents died.
Oh,
she wakes up.
Okay, that's pretty.
She's like, I'm not letting you leave. I'm not letting you leave. Runs out into the street, and the boyfriend's there, like, you remember it too? It really happened. Sort of scene, you know.
I should watch it now. Yeah. No, not at all. I honestly,
okay. Why don't you want to watch the rest of this?
I was at my wit's end. I've got it on my laptop.
Well, you're doing the dismissive bit that I did last time with Pledge This, which is so it's fair, right? Mm-hmm. You get to be dismissive of this movie, even though it's got a higher score on IMDb than Superman 3.
Does it?
It does. It's like 5.4 or something.
Oh, okay, so it's like, this is splitting hairs. This is like
4.9, 5.4, yeah.
There's nothing in it. That's like...
Who gives a crap?
That's like a vocal fan base.
Yeah.
Manipulating the scores.
So there's a great scene in this film. The scene where... Courtney Cox looks out the window and her mum's just standing in the street because Eva Lynn has looked at a photograph and been able to replicate the
everything about
image, the texture of the wool of her cardigan and everything, and her voice as well. Yeah. Her voice. So it's like, how did you know what she sounded like if you just looked at a photograph?
It's the fact when she meets the person that is pretending to be her mum. She's like, I thought you were dead. And then
we were doing important work.
Yeah, the mum's like, we were just doing important work, so I didn't have to see you all the time.
I'm so sorry.
And then she just cries and hugs her. I'm like, you'd be pissed off at your mum if she did that to you, man.
Yeah, no.
Imagine that. You'd be like, why did you cause me to suffer?
Well, we've been involved in some very serious work.
She's like, okay, that's cool.
I'm going to have to ask you to go and grab that weird silver thing with the noise that comes out of it.
Not suspicious.
The cosmic key! Go and steal the cosmic key first, because that's very important to your father and I.
It's like not suspicious at all.
What it reminds me of, though, is like the fact that she's looking out of a window and sees her dead mother. It reminds me of this thing that happened when I was at school, where an exhibition on wheels showed up. It was a van that had like an art exhibition inside it, and it parked outside the school. It went round all the schools, and we all got to go in our little art classes to go in this van and chat. It was a right privilege, to go in this van and chat to the what do you call them?
Mr. Saville.
Yeah, Mr. Saville was in there, the art curator, the curator of the show. Now, the woman who was the curator of the show was there, right? And one of the pieces was this video piece on the wall that had people's faces morphing from one to the other. Zoom. And it's, it's MTV as fuck, isn't it, to have like faces morph from one to the other. It's like, yeah. And I think maybe even the background was doing a bit of morphing and stuff as well. It was a whole moving collage thing of morphing from one face to the next. But it had no sound to it. The sound was down. And she was like, right now, I'm going to put the sound... This piece actually has sound to it. And, you've been looking at it in silent mode and you've been responding to it and all that. I want you to listen to it with the sound up now, and we'll talk about how you feel about it and how it's different, how it hits you differently with the sound on, And it was so funny because she was wanting it to go one way and it went the other, right? She put the sound. She wanted us to talk about how great this was, and it went totally the other way. She put the sound on, right, and it's this the artist delivering this sort of dark poem based on his memories and stuff. And the very first line is like, when killing myself already. Just like, we're all sitting there waiting for this thing, and the first line is like, when I hold my hand up to the light, I see my dead mother. I had to like hold. I was like biting my fist to try not to laugh in the silence of this.
Good God.
And you just see like the girls in my class who are all like, take that fans, like, you're, yeah, everything's a laugh, mate. And they're looking at each other like, what the fuck is this creepy shit?
That's
and
weird.
I had to sit there like this. And she asks us all, so how did that hit you differently? And everyone just starts going, I thought it was crap. I thought it was better without the sound on. Yeah, the sound being turned up was like
the brutal honesty of school children.
The sound turned up just totally killed it for me. I was enjoying it, and then you put the sound on, and I was like, that's weird.
Oh man, yeah, way to psych a kid, eh? Blooming heck. And you still remember that. There'll be kids who watch that and weren't able to process it in the same way you have, and they still think about that every day. It's messing them up and stuff. They're all like digging graves or, I don't know, working at Tesco.
Yeah.
And all they think about is that on loop.
Well, I had to hold it together, and it was that thing of like, when it's probably made twice as funny by the fact I didn't feel I was allowed to laugh out loud. It's that thing of like, you know, when you just you have to clench down on the laughter, and then that makes you, you know, you start dreaming about that play, you know, when you get out of this situation, you're going to be able to just like let the laughter
just go, oh yeah, let it all. I know exactly what you mean,
and it just like pressure cookers right up to the point where it's almost absurd, and it's not even, you're like, it's not even that funny.
No, but then you're laughing at the fact you're laughing, and like snot shoots out your nose and it's all over your blooming face. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I've been there.
But honestly, the sight of what one girl's face, it was a big Take That fan. When I worked in a video rental store or DVD rental store later on, this voice came on the phone. Have you got the movie Cocktail, the 80s film with Tom Cruise? And I was like, not to rent, but we actually do have a copy to buy. And I knew that. I could see it from where I was standing. It was like there for $8.99 on DVD at the time. And she comes charging. She said, all right, I'll be down in a minute. She comes charging. It's this girl that was in my class.
No way.
Yeah. And so it's this Take That fan who loves 80s Tom Cruise films. She'll love Top Gun as well and all that, you know. Her hearing the words, I see my dead mother, and she just looks at her mate with this kind of like eye rolling, like chewing gum in the mouth, just like, oh my god, this is horrible. Ooh. You know, this is totally putting me on a downer. Please them Take That already, you know.
Or Take That like that big.
Oh yeah.
Oh
wow. My god, there was like a line, like a emotional support line that opened up just for people like dealing with the breakup of Take That.
I didn't know that.
You would have been about 3 or 4 or something.
Although on my primary 7 yearbook, it's like Nadeem and then it says, I think it's either interests or music I like listening to, and it's like Busted. Do you remember Busted? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Matt Willis, who is from Busted, and Take That, and I was like, I never liked Take That. I just remember I liked that one comeback song they had. The one that's like, we can rule the world.
That's the comeback. That's the comeback song. Minus record. Robbie Williams and everything. Minus
Don't
2
need
of them.
Robbie Williams.
There's only 3 of them by that stage, I think, isn't there?
I don't know.
Look at me. I'm a total Take That fan. I can write the story on Take That.
Yeah, man. That We Can Rule the World one.
That's
still a beller. You can drive home to that and the journey goes in 2 minutes. Right, sorry. Masters of the Universe. I wanted to talk about the way that movies like Masters of the Universe and Superman 1, 2 and 3 are made are in the era when special effects were clearly a massive draw for audiences, and clearly like we were at the cutting edge. I mean, we're still at the cutting edge, but like at the time the cutting edge was like seriously like talked about, because my dad still talks about how films have good special effects, and I'm like, Dad, shut up, no one says that anymore. Every film has good special effects.
Yeah.
So, but what's interesting about the use of special effects in Masters of the Universe and Superman are that they combine practical with like CGI, and there's like camera trickery and stuff like that. So when He-Man's flying about on that weird scooter thing, this bottom of the scooter is like cut off by the bottom of the frame, so clearly it's on a metal arm, and it's just little things like that. And I really, really appreciate stuff like that, and I wish movies were still made like that. Because I love the idea that you can sit and figure out how effects were done, like the woman going upside down in 2001, or the hallway fight in Inception, or that kind of stuff where you really need to think about how they made it. Whereas now it's all like, yeah, it was a computer that made it. Yeah, obviously.
In some ways, there's some practical effects all around, all across movie history, even like crossing decades of time and stuff. There's examples of this where a practical effect almost accidentally is so, you know, like in Hannibal, the sequel to Silence of the Lambs, there's Ray Liotta's brain gets eaten by Hannibal.
Does it?
And they built a animatronic head, and the point was that they would split the screen so as that, you know, it was Ray Liotta's face up to the very top of it, and then the brain was the thing. But they built a realistic enough face that there's actually 2 or 3 shots that are just the animatronic.
Wow!
Because Ridley Scott was like,
"It's that
good." At that, you know,
that's what it's like in Terminator 2, or Terminator 1. Sorry.
You know, like in Nightmare on Elm Street, I talked about this, how great I like this film. You know, the sleepwalking scene in the school is that crazy lady that's in all the Farrelly Brothers films, and she was in Pledge This. She's the school teacher. It's a great scene when Nancy, the main character, goes sleepwalking in school. I love it. Right, but there's also I know. But I mean, there's also like a brilliant example of coming through the wall at you, when something comes out of the wall and the hands come out of the wall.
Right, yeah.
Freddy Krueger comes out of the wall over Nancy when she's sleeping, and it is better looking than any special effect ever. It's as good as anything visually, and you're like, whoa, and the combination of the little rumbly music that they put in, it's so good.
Yeah.
And it's not what you would call a special effect. It's not computer generated. It's not anything. It's a elasticated sheet with a torch on it.
Yeah, and you just put hands over it.
Him reaching through the wall knocks the crucifix off of her wall.
Yeah.
She replaces it and knocks on the wall, and there we go. We've just witnessed someone come out of a solid wall when it was actually just the plain old lo-fi thing of shine a torch on an elasticated sheet.
I missed that.
That sort of thing. What is wrong with that? If that works, what's wrong with doing it now? And Gremlins again. Like, I was watching the first Gremlins movie last night. When the Mogwai multiplies and there's like little dots of like fur just like pulsating and getting bigger. That was done by putting a balloon, like a hole in the table, and they'd get like a balloon that was kind of halfway blown up, covered in like fur that was stretchy enough material that it would just like grow with the balloon.
Yeah.
And they would blow the balloon from under the table, and it would like
and it
you would
looks
see
amazing.
it.
Yeah.
Right. And Joe Dante admits, you would never do that now. And it's like, why not? Why do you have to do the other thing just because the old thing's old?
Yeah. I think it's because like, why would you go to the effort of doing this, and this when you could literally just tell a computer guy to do it and then tell the computer guy off if he does it wrong?
But the other way costs more money, does it not? Is it not like balloons and people that saw holes in things?
Well, I think it's more like
the time
it's going to cost. So it's going to cost money anyway to do like
Manual
a huge
labor.
principal special effect. So like a massive set piece at the end of the movie. It's like, well, while you're making this, can you do this, and this as well? And it's like, cool. We'll fix that,
It's extras. It's little bits here and there. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So they just do little things like that. But
But
it's pure laziness, yeah.
Like the thing that gets me is that I think it's one of those things that's a real negative message to people who are going about their guerrillas. For those people who actually decide to make a film, who are like getting off their ass to do this ambitious thing when no one's making them. It's just like fully formed sort of. I'm going to make the effort to do this myself. That's where anything starts. If you look at any great filmmaker who started with like a really lo-fi thing that they put their hours and that on the line to get done, their family and everything tell them, give up on that film thing that you're doing, you idiot. I think that there's a real negative message to this whole thing of saying that you shouldn't be doing movies like that anymore, because it makes you feel like, well, wait a minute, if I can buy a table from like a recycling centre and saw a hole in it to make a special effect and use balloons and torches and elasticated sheets, why shouldn't I do that? And it's just that I kind of feel like they don't make enough effort to say that there's nothing wrong with making it that way. If that's what you're able to do, then do it that way. Pointing out that it's a crazy thing to do that now. It puts people off from doing something that they actually should be doing, which is starting at the sort of lo-fi based level of it. It's turning into a bit of a guerrilla filmmakers discussion now. So yeah, I don't know if that's where we want to go.
Yeah.
He-Man on cinema, I like it because it's another trashy thing. Like when Evil Lynn introduces those four guys, it reminds me of Hellraiser a bit, where you see like these four freaky looking bastards. The Beast Man. There's a scene where Monica Geller, aka Courtney Cox, aka whatever her name is in this film,
Julie,
she throws a bottle of ammonia, pure ammonia, all over Beastman's face, and he goes, "Ah!"
I haven't seen this bit.
Well, it was very quick, right? She reaches for this bottle, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that just said pure ammonia on it, and I paused it, and it does. So she grabs a bottle of pure ammonia, pours it on Beastman's face, and he acts really like... Is ammonia not just piss?
I think piss has ammonia in it.
In it, yeah?
Yeah, it's not just piss.
But pure ammonia... So is that like a chemical that would f your skin up or something? I just thought it was funny that this sort of like chemical thing managed to disrupt this great hulking warrior hairy man from another place. It just takes a bit of ammonia, just like whip it right in his face.
It's like
the
Wicked Witch of the East or the West. I don't even know. Wicked Witch of the East, West. She dies because she gets water thrown on her in the Wizard of Oz.
At least we know that I need to take a chemistry class so that I can find out.
Mate, I did chemistry and I can't remember.
Ammonia is in piss, but
it's
piss
a gas.
is not
it's
ammonia.
like a colourless, odourless gas, and when you put it in water, it like becomes alkaline.
Oh.
I think you may. I can't remember.
So a janitor.
This is bad. I should know.
Janitor would use it for some reason, but if it comes to hand, you can always like disrupt the actions of some otherworldly warrior as well, because that'll just like take.
Just pee on him.
Yeah, just.
Well, imagine Courtney Cox had just lifted a leg and pissed on the guy.
Yeah, he
would have made for a better movie.
It would have continued that S&M sort of
vibe.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Right, cool. Do we have any more thoughts on Masters of the Universe then?
The truth collar, when they whapped the truth collar on the guy, I think, would it not have been a funnier film if like they'd have started asking him embarrassing questions like, how long is your willy? When did
I think that's what all movies are sorely lacking.
When like put the truth collar on him, where did the cosmic key go, blah de blah, who took it? While we're at it, when did you first grow pubes? 16, that's really late. That's really late, guys. Hell.
Hey, listen to this guy. Hey, ask him a funny question. Oh yeah.
I just got deja vu, which tells you that we have too many conversations like this.
Oh no, definitely. Yeah. Right. Cool. So, Masters of the Universe and Superman. Any thoughts to unite these two films or deunite them? They can never make these movies again.
Well, the thing is, right? Done. How many? Even now, right? I mean, I know that we've got the Marvel movies reaching number 20 in a big series and stuff, right? But you see, in normal terms of like films like going on, you only have about 2 or 3 that you want to make. So I mean, what, you wanted it to go on for 2 decades, or Christopher Reeve to still be playing it in the early 90s and all that, when that horrible accident, I'm afraid we won't be able to make Superman 64 because I've had an accident. It's not like it was going to go there anyway. Well,
I think back in the day, movies would they'd make sequels until they ran out of steam, whereas now movies are just brand expansion, but like brand expansion to the point where it's like completely crucial that it's as safe as possible and as broadly similar as possible. Because apparently the new Incredibles movie, I've not seen it yet, but apparently the new Incredibles movie is the exact same as the first one, just with the genders reversed. Oh. Yeah. So I think that's what they do. They just remake the same movie again and again and again. Marvel haven't made a new movie since the first Iron Man film. Like, they've just made the same movie 20 times now.
I'll take your word for it, because I
think I've seen them all.
I've watched the Iron Man film when it came out, so I've already forgotten it, because that's a long time ago.
Not that memorable.
Yeah.
That's it. None of these films have like a wow moment, whereas I think the Superman movies definitely do, and I'm sure if I had any respect for Masters of the Universe, that would as well. Oh, right.
It's got a cheap, nasty thing going on. That King Solomon's Mines, with where I was talking about, it's the John. I went right into the John Williams rip-off thing, which is totally what happens with these films, and it's almost ridiculous. But as proof, that is a cheesy 80s retread of something, and it's not good. There's no reason to watch that again. For any level of campy humor, or this humor, ironic, whatever you want to call it. There's definitely something that Masters of the Universe has that pulls you to watch it again. This many years later, you just think to yourself, oh, you know what, that film, I really want to watch it again. Courtney Cox with this weird thing that the guy thinks is a synthesizer, even though it looks mental. It's like, I know what this is. This is a Japanese Japanese synthesizer, and then you hit the red button and it opens up with a light show.
Opens up a portal to hell.
Choo 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 choo.
Right, Master of the Universe, Superman 3. It's been a good one.
Yeah, well, I kind of feel oddly like, I don't know. I feel kind of like it's almost like I've confirmed that I'm an idiot for liking them or something. Like, in the course of the conversation, it's like now I feel like a idiot.